Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever felt, just completely overwhelmed by life? Like you're literally a leaf blowing in the wind, totally at the mercy of your boss, your bank account, or just the people around you? Well, today we're exploring the ultimate explainer for anyone who wants to absolutely flip that script. We're unpacking the timeless, honestly mind-bending insights from James Allen's 1911 philosophical classic, Man, King of Mind, Body, and Circumstance. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. It's a profound, practical manual for taking absolute, uncompromising control of your destiny by starting with the literal one thing you actually command.
So are we victims of circumstance or creators of our reality? I want you to really sit with that for a second. Because let's be honest, it is so easy to fall into passive thinking, right? To just blame the economy or bad luck or other people when things go sideways. But the core premise we're breaking down today completely rejects that victim mentality. It argues, quite aggressively actually, that our thoughts literally build our physical world. Every single thing you experience on the outside starts as a tiny seed on the inside.
Section 1. The Power of Thought. Now, to truly get how this invisible architecture works, we kind of need to go on an inside-out journey. We're shifting our focus totally away from the external world and looking directly into the inner landscape of the human mind. James Allen puts it like this: man is the maker of happiness and misery. These things are not externally imposed, they are internal conditions. I mean, wow, that was a radical paradigm shift over a century ago, and it still hits incredibly hard today. What he's saying is, no outside force, no bad luck, no external circumstance causes our misery. Our own thoughts do. If you're unhappy, it is fundamentally an internal condition that you've allowed to take root. Let's look at a really vivid contrast to see this in action. On one side, we have the small-minded man. Now, because he is internally suspicious and covetous, he looks out his window and literally sees a den of thieves. He just expects to be cheated. But on the other side, we have the large-hearted man. He is internally generous, magnanimous, so he looks out the exact same window and sees a dwelling place of gods. It's wild to think about, but these two people can live in the exact same physical neighborhood, literally on the very same street, yet they exist in entirely different mental universes. The external street didn't change at all. The internal lens did. And this brings us to a really profound, simplified realization. You are the mirror. We don't see the world as it actually is. We see it as we are. All the men, women, and events you encounter, they just bounce back your own internal reflection. If your mind is chaotic, well, the world looks chaotic and hostile. But if your mind is peaceful and ordered, the world reflects that exact serenity right back at you. Which leads us to Section 2, Shaping Your Circumstances. So now that we understand the mirror effect, we have to transition to the outer world of things. How do these internal, invisible thoughts actually manifest as our external, physical circumstances? Well, consider the sheer weight of this idea. You forge your own chains. We literally bind ourselves with our own thoughts of limitation, fear, and self-doubt. But by the exact same law, we loose our bonds with thoughts of freedom and courage. Your external circumstances are just physical combinations of your past thoughts. You build your own dungeons when you believe you're trapped, but you also absolutely have the power to build your own palaces. And this brilliantly illustrates how we interact with hardship. The source says, "He who complains of his circumstances has not yet become a man. Circumstance is a severe taskmaster to the weak, an obedient servant to the strong." We have to completely flip our view of obstacles. Think about those so-called drawbacks or roadblocks you're facing right now. They aren't meant to stop you. They are the very steps up which you must mount to reach success. Necessity is a spur to your resources. It transforms hindrances into aids, but only if you approach them with strength. All right, Section 3, Breaking Chains of Habit. Zooming in on the actual mechanics of your daily life, we need to look at exactly how a fleeting, momentary thought can rapidly solidify into heavy iron chains of habit. And I really have to challenge you directly with this. Are you the master of your habits or their whipped slave? Here's the catch. You cannot escape the universal law of habit. We're creatures of repetition by nature. You can't just step outside the law of habit any more than you can step outside the law of gravity. But you do have the absolute, undeniable power to choose which habits you serve and which ones you master. Let's walk through this step-by-step evolution. It's like a formula. First, you choose a thought. Second, you repeat the physical act associated with that thought. Third, through repetition, it becomes automatic. And fourth, your character is fixed. Human faculty, who you fundamentally are at your core, is simply fixed habit. It's built over millions of repetitious thoughts. You aren't just born a certain way. You slowly, incrementally become what you repeatedly think and do. Now, the greatest stumbling block isn't actually the bad habit itself. Crazy, right? It's the phrase on the left, I cannot overcome. When you say that, you are submitting to a false, enslaving belief. You're handing over your power to your own perceived weakness. But when you switch to I can, you plant an entirely new seed. That I can becomes a massive, powerful tree of habit bearing life-giving fruit. You have to uproot the idea of powerlessness before you can ever hope to change the habit itself.
Section 4. Health, Wealth, and Mindsets.
So, we're shifting this explainer to address two of the most common physical struggles, our bodily health and our finances, but through this uncompromising lens of personal responsibility. Breaking this down, notice how bodily sickness or disease is often seen as stemming from an inner mental conflict or persistent self-pity. The solution? Mental harmony and moral wholeness. And then look at the row on poverty. The source material argues that financial poverty is frequently a state of mind rather than just a lack of money. It's rooted in covetousness, laziness, or just ignoring self-improvement. Literally, a miser can be a millionaire but still live in a state of deep, crippling mental poverty. True wealth and true health both start with clean, disciplined thoughts.
Let's move to Section 5, 5 foundation stones, and see how this builds.
We've talked a lot about the mindset side of things, but now we're opening up the practical toolkit required to architect a genuinely successful and peaceful life from the ground up. Here are the 5 non-negotiable fundamentals: duty, honesty, economy, liberality, and self-control. Think about it like a giant puzzle. You cannot build a secure physical house without first laying down a strict mathematical plan based on right principles. And your life is no different. If you try to build a life on shoddy practices or corner cutting, the whole shebang will eventually collapse. I really want to isolate the final, most crucial stone here, self-control. It is the absolute mastery of your temper and passion. Seriously, think about it. A person who loses their temper over trivial matters with a customer or a colleague is actively dooming themselves to failure. Without self-control, all the other stones just crumble. It's the vital glue that holds the lessons of patience, purity, and steadfastness together. This chronological architecture shows exactly how success is built. You start with right principles, which naturally create sound methods. Those methods lead to true actions and true speech. That integrity cultivates equal-mindedness, which is basically this deep, unshakable inner peace, and that inevitably yields good results. It's literally a mathematical chain reaction. You simply cannot expect a harvest of good results at the end of a line if you're planting seeds of poor action and untrue speech at the beginning. Make sense, right?
Moving into Section 6, claiming your spiritual dominion.
We are now bringing this narrative arc to its climax. This is the moment where we have to finally and permanently transition from being passive victims of our circumstances into active, kingly creators of our own destiny. Listen to this closely. The kingdom over which man is destined to rule with undisputed sway is that of his own mind and life. So the crucial point is, true mastery isn't about figuring out how to manipulate the outside world or controlling other people. It's about totally and completely subduing your own internal passions. You are meant to sit on the throne of your own mind. We're called to conquest, not resignation. We aren't meant to just throw our hands up, resign ourselves to suffering, and say, well, life is just hard and I give up. No way. Absolutely not. We are meant to actively conquer the darkness, the fear, and the evil that exists within our own hearts. When you purge the negative from your own mind, the external world literally has no power to defeat you. Which brings us to the final, ultimate test. What is the very next thought you are going to choose? Right now, today. Because that single thought is the first brick in the reality you are building for your future. I challenge you to take absolute responsibility for that reality, starting this very second. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it helps you build a masterpiece.